What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Yak Chat, sponsored by Lead Time. Yes, we got a main sponsor for the show, which we'll talk about in just a second. Super excited about that. So here at the Yak Chat, we talk about all things kayaks, all things fishing, all the time. And my name is Jay with Bearded Dad Fishing. So I'm glad you guys have taken the time to be with us here. This podcast is streaming live on YouTube and is available on demand on Apple, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So if you're listening live, just make sure to air your questions, your comments, your smart remarks. We like it when you keep it sarcastic and funny. And if you're watching later on, make sure you guys drop a review wherever it is that you are listening. So if you guys are anything like me, you quickly jump in head first into your hobbies and interests. So this episode is perfect for this because we tend to get overwhelmed, right? So when it comes to bass fishing, you want to jump in head first, but that can get out of hand really quick. There's so much to learn regarding lures, techniques, seasonality, behaviors, cycles, the moon, the weather, and bill dance that you can quickly get overwhelmed. So tonight we're talking with our good friend Jake Stem. He's been fishing bass tournaments since 2016 and kayak bass tournaments since 2021. He fished the co-angler qualifier for the ABA National Championship. And in 2021, he got first place in the Ike Foundation Tournament and was the Slay Nation Angler of the Year in 2022. And just recently, he nabbed another first place this March for the PA Bass Nation on Raystown Lake. So there's a reason that I call him Poppy Juice, because he's got that juice, and I'm excited to chat with him today. So again, this is an interactive show. So if you guys have questions, make sure you guys throw them out there and get those dad jokes ready too, because at the end of the show, we will be going over all the submitted dad jokes in our funny or crummy segment. And before we get to the quick housekeeping items, just want to give a quick shout out to the new Yak Chat sponsors. Like I said, Lead Time has come on as a sponsor for the Yak Chat, and they've been a rock solid name in the lithium power game for many years. So not just because they're affordable, but also because they're reliable and now innovative, because they've introduced Bluetooth technology into their 100 amp hour 12 volt batteries. So we're going to be partnering with them. And I actually took out this trolling motor battery for the last couple months, and I did a short review on it because it's been really cool to just be able to monitor my usage while I've been out on the water. So I'll make sure to include that video in the show notes, as well as a link to Lead Time store. And make sure you guys use discount code BDF6 for 6% off your entire order. That includes batteries, chargers, accessories, whatever it is you need. We also want to thank Humble Imprints, who's the official custom apparel sponsor of the Yak Chat. Humble Imprints creates custom t-shirts, custom hats, hoodies, pens, mugs, stickers, all that good and fun stuff. The best part about Humble Imprints is that they donate 10% of all the net proceeds to benefit foster families and foster children in the system. So make sure you check them out at humbleimprints.com. All right, so for the housekeeping items, you guys already know. If you're not part of the Facebook group Kayak Fishing Dads, head on over there, join the conversation. We got more than 25,000 members already, which is bananas. It just keeps growing and growing. Also, we have the Knucklehead Bass Fishing Series. We are ready now for the month of June. Hard to believe May's over, but there's still time to get signed up for the month of June. This is an opportunity for us. If you join the Team Bearded Dad, it's an opportunity where if you come on top for any of the monthly tournaments, you could join my championship team in Alabama this October 5th and 6th. It's only $25 to enter, and if you get to the championship, there's a $10,000 in guaranteed payouts for the teams. Last month, we had Mac Toon, who took first place. So let me bring this screen up real quick. So this is the landing page here for Team Bearded Dad. Right now, we got 35 anglers, and for the month of June, we only got 18 people signed up. All right, so that means you have a really good shot of getting first place or even a second or third and still score some swag. All right, but we come down here, we'll see. For the month of May, bro, Mac Toon came in with 108 inches, which is just absolutely nuts. Dude killed it, man. Second place, we had Rick Peters with 102 inches. and Jonathan Miller in third place with 94 inches. So right now for June, we got Joe Banchetti here in first place with 90 1/4 inches. Rick Peters coming in hot right behind him, and Jonathan Miller in third place with 88 3/4 of an inch. So it's not too late to join for June. You can fish all month long on any public water. So it makes it real easy to join, and it's a great tournament for beginner anglers, intermediate anglers, and even pros, man. So jump on in there and let's have a blast. And last thing here is make sure you guys get it on the calendar. Let me get this off here. Make sure you guys get it on the calendar. We're talking to Chad Hoover on the next show here, June 23rd, about kayak safety, which is absolutely unequivocally important. We want to make sure that safety stays number one when we're out on the water. So what gear to have, what's the best practices, and most importantly, what's the best thing to not do when you're out on the water. So we're going to talk to Mr. Kayak Bass Fishing himself, Chad Hoover, the next show, June 23rd. So make sure you guys get it up and going. So enough of my rambling, bro. Let me get the man of the hour, Jake Stemmen here. What's up?
What's good?
What's up, yo, thanks for coming on the show, man. If y'all don't know Jake, I mean, you probably seen him around commenting on the Facebook group and popping up on my socials, but Jake's a little bit of a viral sensation on Instagram because he caught some crazy footage last year.
That is true.
You got like what, 50 million views on that?
I want to say it's like 45 million views. I was fishing a local fishery in New Jersey, and an eagle swooped down, and it was swimming with a lake trout. You guys might have seen the video. It went crazy last summer, but that was wild. I've seen them do that, like on National Geographic and stuff, but actually realize that it was swimming, I was like, oh, maybe I should film this. But I didn't think it was gonna blow up like that. It was crazy.
Yeah, that's wild, bro. 45 million views too.
Yeah.
Where was this at? What lake were you on?
That was Merrill Creek Reservoir in New Jersey.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, that's awesome, man. And then Jake and I got connected. I think last year at Slay Nation is kind of where we bumped into each other. We fished the same Slay Nation trail here in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, we met at Brady's Lake, I believe, was the first time we met up.
Yeah, and then that's the only tournament I've seen someone win but not be there. They left early, but they still won first place.
That was the first tournament I ever had to leave early. Listen, I had Luke Combs concert tickets for the pit in Philly, and I was like, you know what? I need to still fish this tournament. So I ended up being up for almost like 24 hours when it was all said and done, but I had to leave like an hour early, and it ended up working out in the end there. That's a fun little lake.
Heck yeah. And then I think in that time we saw a bear.
Oh yeah, I did see a bear. Yeah, I was hoping that would be like 50 million views, but it did not do that at all.
No. Yeah, so all right, so we're gonna jump in to a question, but I have a first question before we get into. I want to ask you what you're like, how you got where you are now. But I think a really important question that I like to know is, what's your favorite fishing snack when you're out on the water? What's your favorite snacks that you bring with you?
Oh, geez, that's good. For a while, a good bit, I was running Uncrustables as like the main lunch. Like, you can't go wrong with Uncrustables.
No, quick, I love Uncrustables.
Easy, like grape, not strawberry. Strawberries, no. It's always the grape. But usually, honestly, I like to get like beef jerky or something. Just some good protein on the water. The problem with me is when I'm in a tournament, I am so zoned in, even like fun fishing, but mainly tournament fishing, I am terrible about hydrating and eating. It'll be like, unless I'm like moving spots, like majority of the way through the event, I'll remember, but like it's usually get in the car to leave for the day, and then you eat everything that you have packed because you totally forgot to eat at all. That's usually how it ends up. But usually beef jerky or Uncrustables my go-to.
Okay. No, Uncrustables, that's like the OG snack. I never thought about taking it with me on the water though, but I still love Uncrustables. They bring back like memories of middle school, in-school suspension, because all you could eat was peanut butter and jelly. So
yeah. See, Uncle Stumpy knows. He says grape all the way. That's what's up. You gotta go.
Yeah, and strawberry is not the move, by the way, on those.
No, never.
See, even he said grape all the way. So Yeah, that's cool, bro. So tell us about your, like, how'd you get into kayak? Well, how'd you get into fishing, and what landed you here at kayak fishing and doing tournaments like you're doing now?
Okay. Geez. Growing up, I'm from Poconos of Pennsylvania. And just growing up hunting and fishing with my dad the whole life. Mainly I was more of a hunter. I hunted all the time, everything, anything that you could. That was my go-to. We grew up trout fishing a lot, which if you're from PA, you know, trout
Mhm.
fishing's what they do. That's all they really care about for the state is stocking trout. So did that. I bass fish a little bit, just occasionally. And then going into college, I would say, um, I started getting into tournaments with a buddy of mine that I went to high school with, fishing as a co-angler or a partner in a team tournament, and just fishing local stuff like Beltsville. I was considered my home lake. If you guys are
Mhm.
familiar with the area, Beltsville was my home lake. Used to be in the club that runs the Tuesday nighters there, and just got experience with that. And then I got into co-angling events, and I fished TBF, which is a smaller sister company of like FLW, and
Okay.
they run like districts for the state. So I fished those as a co-angler for a couple, I think 2 years. Then I switched to ABA's, the New York division as a co-angler, and I traveled with a couple boaters, so I'd be able to get practice like 2 days with them, and then tournament day I'd get randomly paired with a boater. So I did that. I want to say for a year and a half, and then I had a sit-in kayak, like a field and stream bass, fishing kayak, but it was a
Mhm.
sit-in, and it was like I honestly hunted out of it more than I fished out of it, but like my back would hurt after like 2-3 hours. So like I was excited to have it, but then after like realizing that it's uncomfortable, I kind of got out of kayak fishing, was like, oh, I hate kayak fishing, blah blah blah. I'd rather be a co-angler in a boat. And then a buddy of mine got a pedal drive, an Old Town pedal drive, and I got in it and tested it, and I was like, I need to buy one immediately. So I went on Facebook Marketplace, and I think within like a week, I bought one used. I bought a Topwater 120 PDL, which is similar to the Sportsman, but just an older model.
Yeah. Is that the same one
And
you still have?
yeah, that's the one I still run right now. Yep, this is my third season with that kayak and third season in kayak fishing. So I got that kayak early. I want to say like March of 2021 or 2022, whatever, 3 years ago.
Mhm.
And I already had tournament experience co-angling. I've had ABA New York. Honestly, if before we get even farther, if you guys want to get into tournament fishing and you don't have experience and you're nervous, co-angling is a great way. Now, of course, if you guys are in the industry, forward facing sonar, you can, depending on your fishery, you could get stuck out in the middle and 60 foot while guys chasing individual fish, and it's not going to be great to be a co-angler. Luckily, this was before that time, so there's still times you got backboated, as they call it, and the boater would face the docks and you couldn't get a good cast. Like, it is what it is. But co-angling is a great way to learn, and that's how I learned, because I went to like I did the New York division, so I learned Cayuga, Oneida, Champlain, St. Lawrence. I don't even know where else. I did Upper Chesapeake Bay a little bit, but mainly
So, like, big
upstate New
fisheries.
York. Yeah, no, and I had probably had like at least 2 trips to every fishery before I got into the kayak, so it was nice to have the experience. And honestly, I got tired of being driven around. Like, the one thing I do miss is going fast, because if you know kayaks, yeah,
Mhm.
unfortunately, we don't have the wind blowing in our hair as we go.
Mhm.
I do miss going 60 to 70 miles an hour, but other than that, it was nice to be able to, when I got my kayak, is to be able to make my decisions, be able to run whatever, wherever I want to go, fish wherever I want to go. And I think kayak fishing makes you a better angler, because you got to slow down. You got to choose your spots wisely, because you can't make a run. You can't just,
Mhm.
oh, I don't like this spot and run. So, yeah, I got the kayak, and then I started looking into kayak tournaments, and then I realized, oh, like kayak tournaments are legit. Like, I didn't realize how big this was. So I fished my very first one on Cayuga, of course. I saw one on Cayuga, and I like drove up through the night, slept in the parking lot, and ended up getting like a 13th or 15th out of 75. That was like my
Cool.
first kayak event. So really cool. And then, I mean, I was already hooked on tournament fishing. I played baseball growing up, so I was competitive. And if you guys are competitive and you haven't gone into tournament fishing, I highly suggest it. There's so many great like local trails like Slay Nation. Me and you met through there. There's elite kayak fishing in the Northeast, which I say would be like a mediocre trail. Definitely some hammers that fish it. But then I would say your Hobie and your BASS kayak series are going to be the top, very top, higher entry fees, higher payouts. But it's just super fun. It can be as competitive and serious as you want to take it. But honestly, the best part is just traveling. Like I got a group of guys that I travel with, and we just travel the events, split Airbnb costs, and just have fun, get a couple days of practice if we can, and just get to travel all these amazing fisheries. I mean, Lake George is probably top 3 lake of mine. I absolutely love that lake.
Well, you went recently. You sent me pictures over there. It looks unreal.
Yeah, Lake George I was there last fall, and every year I go there, it's absolutely phenomenal. The fishing's fantastic too.
Yeah, that's cool, man. I tell people to get into, and I'm not a big tournament angler. Like people know me, like I push guys going to tournaments. I enjoy doing tournaments. I'm not like, I don't go hard, bro. I'm still like learning all this stuff. But like when I did tournaments last year, like way more than when I've done this year, and I learned a lot. Like it puts you out there and forces you into a position that you have to think on your toes.
Yeah, and I think the thing is too is you're forcing yourself to learn new fisheries. Like you're going to new bodies of water, especially the bigger leagues, or the bigger trails. Elite kayak fishing. I started there 2 years ago, and I went to upstate New York. I went to New Hampshire. I went to Maine. I went to Connecticut, and just different fisheries, and you learn faster. I mean, there's greats in Poconos. If you guys know where I'm from, it's a lot of shallow grass lakes, pickerel, bass, nothing big. You can drive 3.5 hours north to Cayuga or Oneida and like 3 pounds an average. Like it's just totally different fishing up there. And I don't know. I just love the competitive side of it. And I hardly honestly ever fun fish. If I'm fishing, I'm usually practicing for an event in the future. Like I'm just always trying to learn new bodies of water. Like today, I was on the Juniata River, which is right next to the Susquehanna, because I have a tournament in 2 weeks and I'd never been there. So me and a couple buddies went out and did a float. So always trying to get better, learn more, learn new fisheries. And that's how you can just keep learning. And then honestly, I feel like in the end, the more you learn and learn new fisheries, and it's just all more stuff that's in your head. And I feel like it makes you pick apart fisheries faster as well, make you a better all around angler.
Yeah. Yeah. That's dope, bro. And there's, I went out to Gunnersville last year for the Knucklehead series, the first year, and we'll be going out this year again. But this year we got to fish the Wheeler and Gunnersville. And I mean, my only time on Gunnersville was during that thing, but it's during that series. But man, some of these fisheries they're wild. They're just so massive that it's breathtaking when you see it. It's pretty much the Tennessee River. They dammed it up, and
I've always wanted. The only place I've fished south of PA for a tournament. I mean the Chesapeake, but like actually going pretty far is Lake Murray, when I fished the ABA National Championship as a co-angler. And that was like, I never caught spotted bass before. That fishery was huge. So I've always wanted to go to like Gunnersville and stuff, but I heard like the pressure is totally different. Like I feel like you go to upstate New York and stuff, and those fish are just dumb. Like they just eat anything you put in their face sometimes. So
well, I mean, you killed it up there the first day of Hobie last week.
Yeah. Yeah. If you guys don't know, Hobie BOS was at Cayuga last weekend, and I'm still trying to accept the fate that happened to me. Day one, I caught 95.5. So they were spawning smallmouth, and the problem was that they were just pulling up. The lake's like 400 feet deep on the lower end, so it takes longer to warm up. So the lower end was like 58 to 60 degrees, and the top end was 75. So where the largemouth were, and majority of people launched up there, but the spawning smallmouth down where I found them, you would find them like literally cover miles and find like 5 of the good ones. Like they were just starting pulling up. So yeah, day one, I caught 95.5. Day two was tougher to see. And I had 3 over 19. I almost went home. Like I couldn't see fish. There was the wind and the clouds just made it impossible to sight fish. I couldn't. The fish that I was fishing for, I found the week before, and I couldn't remember where the beds were, which was not bad on my part. And anyway, I ended up with like 319s at like noon, and with like 2 hours left, I had to run to try to just fill out a limit because I realized like 2 13 inches would have got me top 20 and cashed a check. And with like 20 minutes left, I hooked like a 17 and it came off. I had like slack in my line, totally wasn't paying attention. It popped off, and I was like, oh, well, I still need another one. It's not like I'm going to catch another one. And literally, I go around the corner of this little point, find another one, and it was super not locked on the bed. It was super skittish, probably been caught. And I ended up catching it with like 10 minutes left. And I run back to the 17. And unfortunately, with like 2 minutes left, the hook got around its tail. And when he swam off the bed, it hooked him in the tail. So I had it in the kayak, but if you guys don't know, bed fishing, if you're sight fishing, the fish has to eat it in the mouth. If you hook that fish, you can't snag it anywhere. Even if it's on the outside of the lip, does not count. The bait and the hook have to be actually in the mouth. So that fish I ended up with 9 fish for 2 days with 46 place out of 134. And the fish in my hand would have made it a 6th place.
That's wild, bro.
That hurts. I'm still.
So let me ask the question that other people are going to be thinking is, how, first of all, it's good that you did the right thing.
Yeah.
But how is that enforced by like Hobie or these other trails?
It's honestly a code of honor when it comes to sight fishing. Like, really, you could have just put the board on and just took the picture. Maybe some guys would have. I mean, it stinks. It was a hard pill to swallow to have in your hand, realizing like this is over $1,000 fish in my hand. But if anyone knows me, I have I'm too nice. I'm not too nice, but I'm very nice. I have a good conscience. Like, I wouldn't live with myself. There's no way. Like, I'd be sick to my stomach if I ever did that. Like,
and that's good, bro. That means you're full of integrity. So everyone that's listening, Jake put down $1,000 fish because he snagged it accidentally.
Yeah, accidentally. It ain't the first time though. The first time I had a hook was in the mouth, but unfortunately, it freaking popped off. And I didn't think it was gonna matter. But very, very long, tough day of fishing. That was the worst tournament. Is probably my biggest heartbreak in tournament fishing in all my years, honestly. But I love that lake. I mean, I was catching 5-pound smallmouth on beds, so I can't complain. It was an awesome event. But honestly, I felt like I was a casual kayaker than I was a tournament angler because of how much I was probably running at least 4 out of the 8 hours just running the fish.
Wow.
Like, I was killing batteries, just running. I was pedaling with my motor. If you guys know me, I have a DIY little trolling motor on the back. I was pedaling with it to just gain every, half mile an hour I could to cover water to get to the fish I had marked. And literally, it was honestly exhausting those 2 days where the guys up north were fishing in grass, and then you could just like float around and cast in the grass and catch all day, where you're actually legit fishing all day. So spawning derbs aren't my favorite, but at the same time, if that's what I think is going to win, that's what you got to do.
Yeah, for sure. And I know Trevor Wagner does a lot of tournament fishing. He says, integrity is a great quality. I would do the same for sure, bro. And Ray Johnson, awesome call, Jake. True fisherman. So, and Anthony Letourneau actually brought it up, and I was going to ask too. Christine Fisher had the same thing, right? And I think it was like her PB Smalley or something.
No, so that happened to a 20.5. She caught her PB, which was a 22-inch, which she was actually the top 4 anglers. She was in the area I was fishing. Day 1, I was luckily able to find some fish that no one found on the other side of the lake. It's like 3 miles from the nearest launch. So day 1, I caught 95.5. And then day 2, I went to the other side where I'd gone the weekend prior for practice. And then I found out that like the top 4 people were running in that area. Literally, the guy that won was next to me when I was trying to catch that 17. And he caught like a 19 at like 152. And I didn't realize it was the guy from Iowa who won. So I was in the right area, which makes me feel good. Like, Christine's a great tournament angler, and to know that you're in the area where the top 4 people were.
Yeah, like you literally did everything right.
Yeah. It is what it is. But Christine hooked a 20.5-incher, and I guess it was like right on the outside of the lip. So, which is funny because I saw that video, and day 1, I'm pretty sure I passed that bed and didn't see it, and that would help me big time. So, my buddy Kyle, thanks, Kyle.
He said you had all this fish in a barrel.
I wish I would have. My legs would have been a lot less tired if that was true.
That's funny, man. All right, so I guess let's get into a little bit of the discussion, man. So when it comes to bass fishing, like I said, it can get really overwhelming, right? Because there's so much to learn. So for people that are just getting in, what would you consider to be essential knowledge? Like some of the first things like rock bottom beginners should focus on when they're getting into this kayak fishing? I'm
Okay.
sorry, bass fishing.
Yeah, bass fishing in general. It could be pond fishing, whatever. Bank fishing, boat fishing. I'd say number one, you can't ever beat this, is time on the water, which I'm sure everyone knows. Time on the water can't beat anything. The years that I've spent, 100 days of the year at least on the water, I felt the most confident. You just, you feel good. You have the baits that that are working right now, and you just feel good. But number two would be spending time researching. So YouTube is absolutely amazing. I started learning on YouTube in like 2015, 2016. That's when the Guggen Squad came out, which if you guys know, they were kind of like, the original fishing YouTubers back in the day. So I would say YouTube was my biggest thing, is just learning techniques and then going on the water and testing those techniques. I mean, if you can have a little private pond that you have permission on, that maybe fish will bite everything or anything, and you can practice new techniques. It's tough if you go to a public fishery that's pounded and you want to try a technique. It's tough to gain confidence. It's so tough to gain confidence in that. So if you can somehow have a little fishery, a honey hole, even if they're little fish, it doesn't have to be, 5 pounders, anything that eats your bait is a confidence, a way to gain confidence. So my two things are YouTube and time on the water. And don't get it's overwhelming with the amount of techniques now. You have hover strolling, you have, live scope and all this stuff, when realistically the number one rig that probably outfishes everyone is a dang wacky rig or a Texas rig Senko. Like, if you're in Pennsylvania and you don't have that tied on, you're crazy. Like,
you could probably catch on a Senko almost all year round.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Ray Johnson said 4-inch green pumpkin Senkos. Like that's. I went to Leaser Lake, which is a small lake out this way. Jake knows it. And I caught almost 20 fish this week. They were all small, but it was fun, and B, most of them were with a green pumpkin, freaking 5-inch Senko. And the other ones were with a fluke, and you know what I mean. But you build up that confidence because if the little ones are hitting it, the big ones would hit it.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of finding the big one.
And that's the thing. Depending on if you're just fun fishing forever or if you want to get in the tournament fishing, that's where it's like, okay, you have a ton of confidence in a bait. When do I decide to move on? When do I decide to try something new? Like, something that I didn't fish with for the first 2 years of tournament fishing was a jig. I didn't throw jigs. And we know Jay is trying to get on that jig game. I try to get him on at Racetown.
I want to get good at it, but I just hate having to learn something new, man.
Yeah. So that's something I didn't throw for 2 years, but it's just get comfortable with a technique. And then if you're in the tournament world, that eventually there's going to be certain bites where it's going to help you. It's like figuring out, you can throw a wacky rig in tournaments all day long. Are you going to catch them? Yes. Could you win? Yes. But there's always certain techniques that are going to get you a bigger bite, more bites. There's always something out there. So to have that experience with just experimenting, like I said, with a nice little pond that you have that, they'll eat everything, where it's like, okay, I've never caught a spinnerbait fish, and now I'm going to go throw a spinnerbait. And at least, even if you're catching 10 inches, at least you gain confidence. You know what the bite feels like a chatterbait. You're reeling the chatterbait through the grass. You get used to, okay, it's not vibrating, so it's stuck on grass, so to rip it out. Or you kind of just get used to how they bite it, because sometimes they don't whack it. Your rod tip just loads up. So it's just getting experience on how each technique works, and just try not to overwhelm yourself.
Yeah. So you think a Senko is a good place to start for people?
Yeah. No, because Senko, you can Texas rig it, weightless or weighted. So if you're in brush, grass, I would say weightless. If you're throwing it around trees, stumps, you can do a little bit of weight. I mean, skipping under docks. I love a 16th ounce Texas rigged Senko peg the weight, put like a 16th ounce on a 4-inch Senko and skip it under docks, and it'll shoot up under there on a spinning rod. And then you could also wacky rig and skip it up underneath docks. That's another thing. If you're not used to dock fishing and you want to practice skipping, don't go try skipping a jig on a bait caster. I still bird's nest half the time on a bait caster with trying to skip. So take a spinning rod and a Senko and skip underneath those jigs. So, and honestly, the Senko can catch them anywhere. You can catch giants on the Senkos, but like I said, once you get experience with it, it's always good to learn new techniques. Always have a trick up your sleeve, because in tournaments, sometimes you got to adjust on the fly. If they stop eating the Senko, why did they stop eating the Senko? What do they want? Maybe they want a Nico rig. Maybe they want a Ned rig. I mean, sometimes they get so finicky with weather changing or just anything. They could just change the bite. So always have it back in your back pocket. So,
yeah, cool. Yak Basson says throw tubes. Do you throw tubes out?
I don't throw tubes a lot, but I've had some good days on tubes.
Okay.
But
all right, man. So what do you think is a technique to leave out for until you get more advanced?
Okay.
So because you see, that's the thing is, you see all this stuff on videos, you know, and I've just like, I think you said glide baits, right?
Yeah, glide baits.
Bro, that's like the big thing now. Everyone's I see them all over YouTube, and I fell for it and I bought some glides, and I probably thrown them out like barely anything.
I have them. I've yet to catch a fish on them. I've had follows, but I've heard glide bait guys, you know, there's the thing with YouTube too now compared to like 2015 is nowadays it's all about clicks. It's all about, you know, titles and, you know, thumbnails. And my buddy Jonas is in here and he's going to get into tournament fishing. He's a big glide bait guy. He just likes throwing them for fun. And now he wants to get into tournaments. So he's going to have to adjust to, you know when to throw it or when not to throw it. But I know big bait guys are like their own little posse over there. Like they love spending big money on big baits and that's all they throw, which is great.
They would drop cash on those.
No, they're rich people over there with their glide bait. But that's just like a whole nother. I would say stay away from glide baits. Stay away from live scoping baits. You don't need live scope. I have it on my kayak. I installed it. It's great for certain bodies of water. PA, do I scope individual fish? No. We have a lot of pressured lakes. Do I use it to look at weed lines and edges and structure? 100%. And it's great for that. That's what I did at Brady's Lake last year when I met you on that lake. I was just looking for the edge of the grass line and throwing my drop shot on the edge of it. But then you go to places like Lake George, where in the summer they're out in 90 foot chasing bait balls and you are live scoping like you see on TV. And it's a ton of fun. Don't get me wrong. I use it for crappie fishing. I use it, you know, when I go up to Lake George. Winnipesaukee in New Hampshire is a great lake for that. But you are scoping them. And in certain tournaments, depending on time of year, they are out there chasing bait. And that's what you need to do to give yourself the best chance or a better chance to win a tournament. If you're just fun fishing, of course you can beat the bank. Of course you can find fish elsewhere. But it's all based on back into like doing research, like time on the water. YouTube, along with YouTube, is just researching the bodies of water you're fishing. Google Maps is a great thing to use. FishBrain, a bunch of apps out there. Just putting your time in before you get to the body of water, especially if you're a tournament angler, is like Raystown. When we went out to Raystown, I watched every single YouTube video. Now, depending if I don't have kids yet, so I have a little bit more free time than like Jay, but I try to watch every YouTube video on the body of water. I knew going into that where I wanted to go practice. And then me, Jay, and Juan went out there, practiced. And then I got one other time to practice, and then I ended up stumbling upon the right stretch in that tournament and getting the win. But putting your time in off the water before you get there can highly increase your chances of just getting on fish right away. Because if you go on FishBrain or any of those apps and you just look at Google Earth and you're like, oh, this bank looks really good, or oh, this bank doesn't look good, you kind of know where you're going instead of just showing up to the lake and just winging it.
Yeah. And I found on bigger bodies of water, like more popular fishing spots, if you look on YouTube and type the name of the lake and then fishing report, you'll get a lot of up-to-date stuff. So like Bryan, who's from the Michigan Fisherman, he posts fishing reports all the time for Lake St. Clair. And a ton of people up there do. So they do that in different places. So at least that gives you an idea of where the fish could be, like not exactly, but where they could be and what certain people are finding.
Yeah, 100%.
So, and speaking about Juan, by the way, today's Juan's birthday. So shout out to Juan. That's why he's not with us.
I got next Sunday's my birthday, so we're close.
Oh, well, happy early birthday, bro.
Thank you.
But you're not. Juan just turned 35, and Jake's a young bull.
Gonna be 27.
27. You're young, bro. Come on, get out of here. Make me feel like I'm 50. But no, that's dope. Happy early birthday.
Yeah, boat traffic on Lake George can be nuts. Michael, you are correct. That's one thing you gotta be careful of when you go to these big bodies of water. I don't know what Gunnersville was like. I know that's mainly a bass fishing lake. I don't know if it's like pleasure boat, but some of these luckily like Cayuga doesn't get traffic. Though on day one of the tournament, dude, first thing I've ever seen this. I swear these jet ski people should have been wearing like biker, like they should have patches on their life vest. 25 jet skis come down. Like
where was this at?
At Cayuga in a crew. Like it looked like a biker crew on the water. Just they're all running down the lake together, like 25 of them. I was like, oh my goodness.
That's wild, bro. Yeah, jet ski guys are super rude, man. The closest call I had on the water was up in Lake Wallenpaupack, and we had a kid on a jet. A kid. I mean, he maybe was 15 years old.
Yep.
Like came between me and my other buddy. We're both on kayaks, maybe 20 feet apart, and this guy came ripping right between us, bro. Like on Wallenpaupack, yeah. Like, and after that, we were pretty close to shore. We weren't dead middle in the lake. You know what I mean? Like, just some people, man. You just. Especially when they're young.
Bodies of water that you guys will figure out. Like, also do that research. Like, make sure, like Winnipesaukee, New Hampshire gets a lot of boat traffic, but there's certain areas of the lake that wasn't bad when I fished it. But like Wallenpaupack, I don't touch. I don't even bother. You have like 2 hours in the morning to fish, and there's usually still a wakeboarder or a water skier out super early to beat all the wakes on the water so they can ski nice. And
well, one of the guys that came out to the fishing meetup with us, Chuck fishes.
Chuck. Yeah, he lives He lives right up there. He loves that lake.
Yeah, and Cooler Lid, 100% facts. He said Omnia has a great fishing report. I love. There you go. Omnia does. They have an awesome app too. It's $50 a year to sign up, and it gives you the contours. It gives you the vegetation breakdown. It gives you. I
use that for Racetown too. That's a really good. I love that map. I use that a lot for my tournaments.
Oh, that's dope. That's cool, man. And real quick, I want to give a shout out too for Mason Beth Kenner. He became a YouTube member for fishing, bro. So shout out, Mason. I appreciate you, bro. That's love right there. If y'all want to become a member, you guys can check it out. So mad love to Mason. I appreciate it, brother. So all right. So if you had to break it down, I know you said what beginners should start out with. What are your favorite though? Your favorite 3 all year type of lures for beginners?
I mean, you can't go wrong with top water.
Yeah. Top water?
Yeah, top water is number one. I was catching them today on top water. I was catching big smallmouth on choppos, whopper ploppers, whatever you want to call them. So, I mean, it's either, spook, popper, or you go to the frog side. I mean, top water's just top water. I mean, no matter which way you're fishing it, you can't go wrong with that. Big 5-pound largemouth on a frog in the pads, or a 4-pound smallmouth on a walking bait on a point on the lake. I mean, I would say top water is 100% number one. Number two is a Texas rig, weightless or with a weight, pegged or not pegged. You can catch a ton of fish on a Texas rig, whether it's a Senko, a creature bait, whatever you want a Texas rig. Whether you're pitching it into a tree along the bank, dragging it along a point or grass line, I would say Texas rig number 2. You're always going to catch a fish on a Texas rig. And number 3, which Jay has learned is a fun way to fish if they're eating it, is an Alabama rig.
That was fun.
I love an Alabama rig bite. Usually it's a colder water temp. Bait that they usually hit in the colder waters, but when they are eating an A rig, they like rip it out of your hands. So I love an A-rig bite. That one's, if you are a tournament angler, make sure you follow your state rules depending on how many hooks you can have. Mainly the reason I throw it in PA is because we're allowed 5 hooks. We don't have to have any teasers or fake ones without hooks on it. So we're allowed. Some states are only allowed like 2 hooks, and then I probably wouldn't throw it. I would just throw a single swim bait. But yeah, PA, we get lucky and we're allowed 5 hooks. So I'm definitely throwing an Alabama rig. I absolutely love it. Be careful, though. They're expensive and they get snagged up. So if you're fishing from the bank, do not recommend. If you're fishing from a kayak or boat, fish like I would say 10 feet or deeper because they sink fast. But it's a super fun technique. Absolutely awesome.
I caught one last month. Was the first time I caught on the Alabama rig, and you're right. It was fun, bro. It was only a 17-inch bass, but it felt like a much bigger bass because it's so springy from it being loaded.
Yeah, I catch stripers on them too, and man, they freaking rip the rod out of your hand.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool, man. So, but for these, would you call them all year lures, or there's a right time to throw? I mean, a Texas rig could be like all year because if you're
Texas
putting a
weight
on it, right?
Yeah, Texas rig all year. Even in the cold water, you could drag it real slow, have a finesse presentation like a little 3-inch, 4-inch Senko, and drag it. You can get bit all year on a Texas rig. Especially in the summer when it's hot, they're either in the grass or in wood or deeper. So you're getting bit all year on a Texas rig. Top water, I was catching them. So my second tournament of the year, I was at Sagandaga Lake, which is up in the bottom end of the Adirondacks, and it's full of like 15-inch fish. Like I was catching like 75 fish a day. Anything you threw, it was crazy. But there was no like a 17-incher was big for the event. But the last day of practice, I realized I was catching them on a jerkbait, so the fish were feeding up. Like I couldn't get them to eat a Ned rig, a jig. I had the live scope on, and when I would rip the jerkbait over the rocks, you'd see him come out of the rocks. You wouldn't see him before, but all of a sudden when you take the jerkbait over, you'd see him come up and eat it. So I thought to myself, they're smallmouth, they're active. Let me try a top water. And it was 58 degrees, and I caught like 15 on top water. So depending on where you're at top water, clearly not in the winter, but I'd say that 55, 58 degree start, especially smallmouth because they're more active in the cold water. But largemouth, 65, 70 degrees, and then all pretty much, spring, summer, fall. Fall, I don't have a ton of experience fall fishing just because I'm used to being in the woods hunting, which I've heard it's great because a lot of guys are hunting. A lot of anglers usually are hunters as well, a good majority. So the lakes are usually a little more open that time of year, but I've heard fall topwater bites get insane as well.
Okay. I've really only done topwater around this time, June, July, early mornings. And it is addicting. Once you get that first blow up, and I still can recall some of my favorite blow ups on topwater because it's just an epic look. I mean, when we got a smallie coming out the water looking like Free Willy, on your whopper plopper, it's exciting.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, today I was catching on topwater all day. I wasn't getting bites a ton, but I was catching them midday in the sun, like noon. They were still blowing up on it. So you get those days when they're eating topwater all day. That's just a fun day.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, just a reminder, guys, if you guys are watching, wherever you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, make sure you guys like this video, like the live stream, because that helps us get out there. So thumbs up, heart it, share it.
Some like Zooms or whatever throw up the thumb for you now.
I don't know. I know.
Oh, there it goes.
Gives me fireworks.
There we go.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So your boy Joshua Fusen says chatterbait bite and lipless crank usually pretty good in the fall.
Yeah, chatterbait. That's a fun bite. That's one I'd probably put number 4. If you can get on a chatterbait bite and you got a lake with grass, when they eat the chatterbait, oh my gosh, that's a fun bite. Like Cayuga, and everyone knows Cayuga, the north end in the spring. You probably can throw anything, but when you're throwing a chatterbait and they just rip the rod out of your hand and they're 5-6 pounders, such a fun bite. But chatterbait, if you got a lake with grass, definitely try chatterbait. Can't be too choked up, but chatterbait is an awesome, awesome bait to learn.
Yeah, sure. I think, and from my experience with the chatterbait, the hookup ratio is pretty good. Like as far as losing them, I've never lost a fish on a chatterbait.
No, yeah.
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
I've lost them over time, but single hook's always better, especially with like
Yeah,
top water. Like Michael said, he's addicted to the buzz bait. 100%. Buzz bait is a bait, top water bait I absolutely love. I feel like that one's a sleeper.
yeah.
Not too many people throw a buzz bait,
I've never
but
thrown one.
oh yeah, I was throwing it today. I was actually throwing a little rat. I got a little rat, and dude, they were eating the rat. It was pretty cool. But buzzbait is a single hook, even with a trailer hook. So I feel like, I mean, it's way better hookup, and you have less chance of losing it when you're throwing a whopper plopper, a popper, and you have those treble hooks, and you're catching smallmouth or largemouth, and they're flying feet out of the water.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely hard to stay hooked up. So if you can, whatever bait you're throwing, if you can get away with a single hook, so if they're eating a crankbait, but you could also get them to eat a chatterbait, I'm throwing a chatterbait. Like I'm gonna try to get them on a single hook bait if I can. Sometimes they're not on that, but if I can, single hook over treble hook because they just don't have. It's less likely for them to pop off.
Yeah. Okay. Cooler Lid asks, anyone use a stinger hook on a frog?
I have not. A lot of people say when you get the frog out of the package, you trim the legs. Some say, you trim them shorter so the fish focuses on the body of the frog, and the legs sometimes they come out of the pack like 4 inches long,
Become
way too
long,
long.
yeah.
But some people trim short the same way. Some people trim them different lengths short because apparently it walks easier. One thing I always do is grab my pliers and you bend the hooks up. So when they're on the body of the frog, I just bend them up a little bit. So when you run your finger over it, it catches your fingertip a little bit. Frog fishing.
What about boiling them? Do you boil them?
I don't.
You've seen that, right? It's not just me. Like some people I've seen people boil their
Yeah,
frogs
I have. It's
out
to
of the
get them
pack.
softer and stuff. But I've never done it. I use Spro as my main frog, and I've never had issues with it. But one thing to everyone out there, whether you tournament angler or not, frog fishing, don't be upset if you lose fish because whether you're a pond bank fisherman or an elite series pro, the hookup ratio is going to be about 50%, maybe a little more for a pro, but like don't feel upset if you keep losing them because some days they just hit the frog. Some days they don't want it. If that's happening, one thing I suggest is changing color or size. When you're shopping for frogs, don't look at the top. So what they do is, as you guys know, as fishermen, they make colors to make us buy the lures, not for the fish. So a frog doesn't matter what it looks like on top. It can be as colorful as it wants. You want to look at the bottom of the frog because that's what the fish are looking at when they look up. So I would say you can't go wrong with pretty much like 3 colors. You could want black and white are your go-to, and then maybe like a yellow bottom or like a green pumpkin bottom, something like that. But also size. So there's a lake, Monk Chunk and Jim Thorpe. There's a lot of bass in there, but they're not big. So if you throw even like a medium-sized frog, they don't get it very well. So what I realized is Spro makes a micro frog, and it's like that big. It's super tiny. So I do is I throw it on straight braid on a spinning rod, and they would eat it every time because it's smaller and able for them to eat. Like a 15 inches big there. So
Yeah.
if you're having, some lakes, I mean, would I throw it on a spinning rod in the middle of like a swamp? No. But this was like fishing like around lily pad edges and stuff like that, where it would be easier to get out. Definitely hard to throw a frog on a spinning rod and get it out of that grass and muck. So
Yeah. Word. And Michael Bradley asked weightless fluke. I recently fell in love with the weightless fluke, and it did really good for me this last week, and it also did really good for me in Alabama when I was out there last November. I caught most of my big fish on there, and the other ones I caught on the wacky rig. But yeah, I mean it does nice, and it moves nice. You just got a little bit of jerk, and you can switch up the cadence, but most of them hit like almost right at the beginning when you start just like moving it. They don't want to let it go. It's super erratic too.
Yeah, I like a fluke, but if I could choose between a fluke and a jerkbait, I'm going jerkbait. Even though it's literally against what I just said about single hook versus trebles, but I just have more confidence in a jerkbait. I've caught them on a fluke, but it's not one of my go-tos. I've had really good success on jerkbaits.
Yeah. Yeah, I've done good on jerkbaits too. I think though the difference is going to be like if you're tossing in the grass you don't want to toss a jerk bait with. They're gonna catch
fluke
everything.
You can work right on top of the grass nicely, and that's a great way, especially if they're like missing the frog on the top. If you can go back with a weightless fluke, or even just a slightly weighted fluke with a belly weighted hook, and just kind of set it down on top of the grass, you probably get a better hookup ratio as well.
Yeah, for sure, man. Let's see. Ray Johnson says Live Target makes a great underbody design frog. I haven't used Live Target. I have like one of their spinner baits. That's about it.
Yeah, I've never used much of their stuff.
Jackall Kira frog works well.
I'll have to look into that one.
Jonas Fox says Mog Chunk definitely a couple pickerels.
I took him there, and he's the glide bait kid, and he just wanted to throw glides. And I said, "You're gonna lose one to a pickerel." Luckily, he didn't lose one, but he was catching a ton of pickerel for fun with the glide baits there. They like him there.
Yeah, dude, there's so many pickerel there. When I did the kayak anglers tournament up there, dude, I couldn't submit any fish because either the bass were too small or everything was a pickerel.
Yeah, I used to be able to catch a ton of bass in there, like none over 15, but a bunch of 12 to 15 inchers. But last time I was there, I want to say like last year, was it? Dude, I didn't catch like any bass. It was all pickerel. Our lakes are choked full of pickerel. Some of them need to be removed. That's for sure.
No, yeah, definitely. Cooler Lid asks, what rod action are you using with the fluke? I'm using a medium heavy, so it's a 7'2" medium heavy.
Are you throwing on a spinning or a bait cast?
Spinning, yeah, spinning rod.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean it's, and you could throw it on a medium too, fast action, but I mean you're doing a little bit of twitching, but it's so erratic. Like if you twitch it a little bit, it's gonna twitch a little bit. A lot, bro. It's darting through, and that's the great thing about the throwing it through grass is because you give it a pull and it'll just pop right out the grass and they'll grab it there. I mean, yeah, I got at least 10 fish this week with them.
Yeah, I've thrown it on a jerk bait setup too. So I've thrown it on a medium fast bait caster as well.
Okay. Yeah, they're pretty heavy too, like the super flukes.
Yeah, depending on, especially if you wait it a little bit or something, or if you throw a bigger size fluke. When you get into the smaller flukes, it definitely would be a spinning rod for sure technique.
No. Yeah, Michael Bradley says got 25 largemouth on the jerk bait today. KVD perch pattern.
I love a jerk bait bite. I mean, that's how I won Racetown, was actually a jerk bait bite, and that's what Saganaga I threw all was jerk baits. I mean, I just love a jerk bait bite.
100%, bro. So, so speaking about tournaments, when do you think for beginners is a good time to get into tournament fishing? Because you don't want to, right? So you don't want to get overwhelmed. Maybe like people are, I mean, rightfully a little bit maybe timid in the beginning.
Yeah, it's very, very intimidating for sure.
So when's a good time would you recommend for an angler that they know that they're ready for it?
Okay. I mean, honestly, I don't know if there's a right time. I would say, don't wait too long. Always jump in. You're always going to make mistakes. Don't be afraid. Like, mistakes are going to happen. Like I said, the co-angling thing is a great way to learn, just because you're being driven by a boater. Sometimes they know what they're doing. Sometimes they don't. That's just luck of the draw. Sometimes you get with awesome guys. Most of the time, all your boaters are awesome. I've had a few bad eggs over the years, but it is what it is. But you learn amazing fishers. You can learn a lot from them. I used to, when I first co-angling, I had the largest Cabela's bag they had. So it carried like, I want to say 15 3,700 size boxes. And every time I'd walk up to the boater, they'd look at me. I go, yeah, I got the kitchen sink in here too. Don't worry. Because I was always worried that, one, they'd be throwing something that I have, but I didn't have with me. And two, I was so new. I didn't have confidence baits. Like I kept crawls with me, lizards, like liplesses on bodies of water where I still barely ever throw lizards. I never really throw liplesses. I'll throw a crankbait or chatter over that. So like, I didn't know. So literally I would take this giant bag every event. So don't feel like, everyone starts somewhere. Now, a great way as co-angling, you can join local leagues. Like I did TBF, which is a part of FLW. If you're in the kayak world, there's a lot of local leagues. Slay Nation for PA is a great one. There's Kayak Anglers of Eastern PA, Central PA. Like if you Google, you'll find a local league. There's month-long leagues with KBF and stuff like that. But honestly, you could jump into that, but you're definitely not going to learn as fast because you're not talking to people. It's all online like the whole time. It's not like you're out with people, where like local leagues, you could run into people in the water, or at the end of the day at the weigh-in, at the ceremony, you could talk, shoot the crap and learn some stuff. But co-angling, you're in the boat with someone the whole time, where kayak, you're by yourself and like you'll run into guys. So honestly, I think hopping into a co-angling event would help as well. It is more intimidating because you could be versing. If you do like the BFLs, there's like 150 co-anglers. So it's huge.
But a local trail like Knock Mafia co-angling for one of them.
Exactly. They're a TBF club, I believe, as well. Like when I did my club, there'd be like 7 to 10 co-anglers an event. So like it wasn't overwhelming. There'd be like 10, 15 boaters. It was nice. There's usually a lot of your local lakes will have like Tuesday or Wednesday night bass tournaments, like 3-hour tournaments. I would show up, and I used to be with the club that runs the local ones here. Sometimes my buddy wouldn't have, he wouldn't be able to make it, and I would just go to help be set up in the beginning, and I'd ask, be like, hey, anyone got room? And I actually had a couple guys I became friends with and just let me jump in as a co. And it was a team tournament, so it was a team partner. But a lot of tournaments you could probably, like the Tuesday, Wednesday nighters, you could probably just go to the ramp and see if you could hop in with someone. I know like the local club events, like the actual Saturday events, you probably can't just jump into. But there's a lot of local bass clubs to wherever you're at. There's always good tournaments. So I would just say don't wait too long. I know it's intimidating, but co-angling is a great way to where you don't really have to worry about as much. Give your boater some gas money. Other than that, you pay your entry. They call you the night before when you get paired. Most of the guys are truthful. They say kind of what they're doing, so you kind of know what to take. Maybe bring a little confidence, but realistically, you could sit in the back of the boat and throw a wacky rig or a Texas rig Sango all day and catch fish. Majority of the time, unless you get that with the whole live scope nowadays, you could get someone offshore scoping, which unfortunately that's going to be a tough tournament to be a co-angler. But in return, you're going to learn a lot from that person. You could get paired with a local hammer that knows the bodies of water. You could get paired with someone out of the state that's fished all over. You can learn a ton of stuff. And like I said, when I did the upstate New York division, you just go to all these amazing fisheries and you learn really quick compared to just going to your local smaller lake. I mean, when you get into the big lakes like Cayuga, Oneida, all them, it's totally different compared to like a Leaser or a Monk Chunk. Like those lakes you can fish all in a day and half a day, where these lakes you can't even fish a corner of it in 2 days or 3 days.
Yeah. New York. Just shout out to New York. they got wild fish.
I mean, I'm always up there.
I really like it up there, man. I don't get up there. I mean, my in-laws live up there, so it's a benefit that I can get out there a little bit more often. But they just got great. Even their department of, I think it's called DEC up there, Department of Environmental Conservation. Like they do a fantastic job, bro. Yeah, their state parks are better. Their waters are better. It's just one of those things.
There's not that many pleasure boaters, honestly.
Like and
a lot of the lakes
are so big that even if there were, you might not even notice. But I haven't seen a lot up there.
Yeah.
So Cooler Lid says, no disrespect, I want nothing to do with fishing tournaments.
And
respect,
that's totally
bro.
Understandable.
Yeah.
Just getting out there and catching big fish. I mean, that's where we all started.
Yeah, for sure. Matt Collins says, tournament fishing has advanced me way more than I could have alone. Great people in the kayak community willing to help you out as well. For sure, bro. I remember going to my first tournament. It was with kayak anglers of Eastern Pennsylvania, and I was nervous, but I ended up connecting with Dustin at an event somewhere, and we talked, and dude was super nice. And once I got there, I had questions, but for the most part, like everyone, I don't want to say for the most part, with all the whole time there, everyone was super helpful. I think I forgot a marker. Someone hooked me up with a marker for my identifier.
Usually people are, especially in the kayak world, is definitely for the most part better than the boat world. I mean, usually co-anglers don't deal with it, but like if your boater pulls up to a point and another boater's on it, sometimes there's some chirping going on. I mean, but kayak, at Sagandaga, the elite kayak fishing, I was at the launch, getting ready to launch, and the guy it's funny because I made this mistake when I first fished with them. They have a specific identifier paper that you need. And this guy went to write it on his hand. I was like, you don't have the paper, do you? And he's like, what do you mean? So luckily I always print out like 10 extra identifiers that I keep in Ziploc bags in my kayak in case I would lose one or something. So luckily I was able to hook him up, or else his whole day would have been DQ'd, which would have stunk big time. So
yeah, good thing you saw him.
Yeah, no, literally I was like, oh no. So I quick gave him an extra one. So yeah, everyone's usually really eager to help, whether you're reaching out to, another competitor in the event or the directors. Like everyone's usually really, really helpful.
Yeah, and they'll have a lot of guys will bring like an extra catch board. I usually bring an extra. I have 2 PFDs, and I'll bring them both, just with the thought for me. If one's an auto inflate, what if I hit that thing and it inflates? Whatever, I have my backup. But also, like if I run into someone that forgot theirs, they can't get out on the water. They can borrow my PFD.
Yeah.
Joshua said, I started out with online tourneys for my first year. Now I'm a co-director and always willing to help out newer people. Big piece of advice: find a trail with a good director that will take time to teach you and answer questions.
Yeah.
100%.
Josh,
I feel like Slay
Josh
Nation
and Justin kill it for New York Slay Nation. They're great directors. They get a ton of anglers for their events.
Yeah, heck yeah. I mean, how many did they have at that Cayuga event? It was
Cayuga was an open along with the Hobie. I think there was 65 or 68.
Okay. And they had a lot of double dipping, I'm sure.
Yeah, we have the PA versus New York Civil War later this summer, and PA is going to take home the dub.
Bro, I want to do that one, but I've never fished the Susquehanna. So
I've never fished it up there. I fished down near Harrisburg. I'm fishing the Bassmaster event. But yeah, no, I'm going to take you. I'm going to take you here in the next couple of weeks. We're going to go out there. It's a little tricky with the autopilot users because of you got to watch with certain areas that are super
I got my
shallow.
PDL too, my 120.
Yeah, we could do a float and go right down. It's a fun. I mean, the first time I fished it, the first year, I hated it. I couldn't catch big ones at all. I caught like 5-12 inches every time I went, and I was frustrated because these guys are catching 20 inches every day. And then last year, I think I put up my best tournament there. It was like 92 1/4.
Oof.
Yeah, that was a good day. Then I was like, oh, this is why everyone loves the Susky. Now I know.
Well, people travel from all over to come to it, bro, and it's in our backyard. So I feel like I'm disrespecting it by not fishing.
Literally.
Michael S. I'm all signed up for the KBF Knucklehead tourney online. Low cost, lower expectations for fun fishing. Yeah, I'm with it. I think online is great to start with. Jake, you're right that you don't get that camaraderie, you know what I mean, and learning from people, but it's good. At least it gets you familiar with little things like hand placement, open mouth, you know what I mean? Getting all that. Because the first time I measured a fish on my catch board, I had the hardest time because it didn't want to close its mouth. I had to learn then to wet the board, tilt the board, cover the gill so that, if you don't cover the gill and that gill plate is up, then he's probably going to jump, all that little nuance stuff you kind of get to practice for the onlines.
One tip I'll share for you kayak tournament anglers is please do not put the board on your lap. I have seen so many guys fish flop off into the water and they start throwing words because like if you can, like depending on what model you're in, what kayak you're in, I always like my Old Town PDL, I put it down angled so the head's going down and I'll put the net against the side of my kayak and then put the head of the board into the net. So if they jump, they go right into the net. Like there's all those little tips. Like I said, if you're at a local tournament, you can kind of see. I know Chuck, if you remember at the meetup, Chuck had like a PVC net that like fence that he built. Like he did.
He's never gonna lose a fish that way.
No.
It was like 12 inches tall, and it was like 4 inches or 4 feet
folds
wide.
Up, tell you what, the first time you lose a big one, then you'll never do it again. But I know a guy who still puts them on his lap, and I still hear him across the lake every time he loses one. Like it gives me anxiety watching him do it. Like, please stop doing it.
Yeah. Like, one good tip I got from Chad Hoover when he was given the captain's meeting in Alabama last year was, first of all, make sure you cover that front gill, because if that gill comes up, they're going to want to jump. So that helps with the pressure a little bit, but also take your first picture with your hand on there. So that way you have a good picture, and then move your hand and take a quick picture without your hand there.
Yeah.
So that's what I do every time now.
I always take multiple photos, never taken in the app, whether you're using Fishing Chaos or Turning X in case the app closes out. I know they said they fixed those bugs, but I always
do it
take
right
it
on your camera roll.
Yeah, take it in the camera roll. I take a bunch, and then you snap a random picture, like the front of your kayak. So when you go back through, there's spacing in between your fish, so you're not like getting confused at which fish are which. So always take a random photo in there, and that way you have some spacing, and it's easier for you to go back and submit them.
Yeah. Yo, Uncle Stumpy says, my only issues with tournaments is I can't afford all the fun toys and electronics. I have nothing against them. I just can't afford it. I would say if you watch our last episode 2 weeks ago with Blake Abbey, Blake does all his tournaments with no electronics. He doesn't use a fish finder. He doesn't use live scope. He's really good at fishing, but he's confident in what he knows. And he does, like Jake said, the research beforehand.
Yeah.
But I think you can, and he proves that you can be successful without all that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, when I first got into it, I didn't have the motor, the DIY motor. I didn't have live scope. It's just the pedal drive. It's tough being in just a paddle kayak. I'll say that it's tough. You don't have hands-free fishing. Getting to a pedal drive from a paddle is huge. Huge difference. It makes the life you don't even realize how often when you set the hook, you're instantly like the old towns, you have instant reverse and you're just backpedaling, like pulling out of a lily pad or a grass patch. Like you just do stuff that you don't realize. So, but you don't need that stuff. I mean, like I said, there's some fisheries when it's August and they're offshore chasing bait. Is it going to be tough to compete? 100%. Are you still an amazing fishery and amazing views and having a fun weekend? 100%. That's when it comes down to like how competitive are you? How do you feel about it? But there's guys out there that absolutely smash them with nothing. Blake's an awesome example. He's killing it this year. He did really good at Cayuga as well. He cashed a check, borrowing a kayak. He flew up from Florida and borrowed a kayak, and so
borrowed rods, reels, everything, bro. That was nuts.
Yeah, Matt Collins said, tip for the no electronic guys, fish the spawn tournaments. I have 2 graphs, turned them both off and won the last tournament. That's funny because Cayuga, since I got live scope, I decided to get a second graph, mainly just because of laziness, wanting to have the live scope on one, then mapping inside, scan on another. Do I really need to? No, but that's besides the point. I actually, when I realized it was full spawning, I wanted every extra 0.1 mile per hour I could get. I pulled off the live scope pole. I pulled off the second graph. And I just went, honestly, the only reason I had my graph is for the waypoints for the fish. I marked the beds that I had. But an actual good tip for people that have fish finders, one thing that I do a lot, and I think I've told you this, Jay, is whenever I go to bodies of water, I mark every fish I catch. Now, with the Garmin's, there are different, symbols that you can use. And Garmin has 9 fish symbols. They're numbered and they're different colors. So like 1 is like blue, 4 or 5 is like orangish, and then like 8 and 9 are red. So what I do personally is every time I catch a fish on a body of water, I mark it, and then depending on what it is, if it's a 12, 13, 14, it's a 1, a blue. If it's like a 15 through 17, that's like a mediocre fish. So I'll do like orange or 4 or 5, and then a good one I mark red. And I did this at an Oneida tournament before I had a motor and live scope, and I was fishing grass. And after 2 days of practice, and you go back and look at your waypoints, I ended up finding it was all grass, hundreds of yards of grass. But I found 3 small 30-yard circles that the fish were hiding in, whether that was rock on the bottom of the grass that you couldn't actually see, but there was a reason they were holding that patches. So I actually was able to go back and that's anywhere, a local lake, go to Lisa or whatever. And then all of a sudden you realize over time, hey, I always caught a big one in this stretch. Like maybe they relate to this stretch.
Yeah. That's a good tip. I still, I don't really, I set waypoints every now and then. I probably don't do it nearly as much as I should. But let me see here. Josh coming at your neck, bro. He says, you haven't beat us yet, Stem, at any event.
Yeah, our Civil War is the same weekend that you've seen Drew Gregory's kayak adventure series. It's the same weekend. So I'm excited to try that out. That's a fun, I feel like that, I mean, I haven't fished one yet, but that seems like a great format for beginner kayak fishermen. It's
So are you fishing the kayak adventure series?
Yeah.
Okay. So
if you guys don't know, Drew Gregory started his own tournament series this year, and it's kind of like He partners with a town and does like a whole weekend out of it and does like fun events while the people are fishing for like your family and stuff. So they just had literally this weekend, today or yesterday. Yesterday finished up, I think, their third event, but all the content I've seen looks really cool. So I'm really excited for when they come to PA. They're coming to a stretch literally like on the New York border that I don't know if anyone has experience on the Susquehanna. So I'm interested to see how it goes.
So you're not doing the Civil War this year with
No,
Slay.
that's what we decided to do is the Civil War there as well. Because we were going to do the lower end Susky out by us, by Harrisburg. But Drew reached out because he wants to try to partner up with a lot of local trails as well. So people have the opportunity to fish those. So we are doing a Civil War along the same
I think
weekend.
Kayak Anglers is doing it too.
Yes, there's like 2 other local trails out there that weekend as well.
Yeah, that's wild. I want to try it out. I like everything I've seen so far from the adventure kayak series. It changes things up. It makes it family friendly. So you could take the fam. They have events and rides and food vendors and
they partner with a whole little town. It's pretty cool from what I've seen.
Yeah, it's really cool. And then they have that micro bag division, which I think John from Creek Fishing Adventures at their second event won that micro bag division.
I don't think my buddy Brett's watching, but that's for my buddy Brett. They made that just for him.
Yeah, for the small ones.
Oh, Bryan said kayak anglers of Eastern PA is there too. So
it's wild, bro. I'm gonna have to go up there for that one then.
Yeah, come on up.
That's cool, man.
I'm gonna try to go up there and practice because I don't know what that stretch of river's like. So
it's like 2.5 hours from Allentown too. Like it's up there.
Yeah, no, the top of the boundaries are in New York. I was looking at it. So
yeah. Cool. So I don't got any other questions, bro. What else do you want to? If you guys have questions for Jake on lures, on overall bass fishing, make sure you guys get them in because we're gonna lock up soon. But what would you say then, Jake, for guys that are starting out? Like, what's your, I don't know, final thoughts, if you will?
Final thoughts
to not get overwhelmed, bro. Because I get overwhelmed. I mean, I think I'm an average dude. I get overwhelmed when I'm presented with so much information, and in the world of YouTube, it's everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, research is number one and time on the water. Those are your 2 things. Now, research can be overwhelming. So maybe if you know a buddy that bass fish, ask him what he thinks you should research, but just try to focus on 1 or 2 techniques max at a time. Take your time, do the research on it, and then go out there, go to your little honey hole if you got one, go to a public lake. Like Mung Chunk is a great example. Mung Chunk, there are not big fish in there, but if you want to learn a technique, it's a great way to learn a technique. They don't got to be big. They just got to bite. You just got to get used to that bait. So just research, put time on the water.
One thing I'll add to the research thing, because I made this mistake in the beginning, is when you research whatever it is for beginners on YouTube, make sure it's someone that's fishing a similar area as you, like at least same region. Because I was out here watching Fluke Master in southeastern PA throwing 10-inch June bug ribbon tail worms, like wondering why it's not getting bit.
I've caught some on big worms here in PA.
I've caught some on big worms too, but as a beginner, I was like, oh, this is what I'm doing wrong. And I would toss all the stuff I had because Fluke Master said buy these worms, and I'd go buy those worms and not get any bites. And it wasn't until it took a while for it to click in my head that we're fishing different areas. So they're gonna bite. They're gonna bite different. They're gonna.
He's fishing ledges, and we don't have ledges.
Yeah,
like there's just different bodies of water. Yeah. Will says learn kayak position. That's a great tip. Kayak position, which you might not think is a huge deal, but like speaking of like ledges, I know we don't have ledges here, but like ledging, they will eat better a certain way. Whether you drag your bait up the ledge, whether you drag your bait down the ledge, across the ledge. When it comes to finding fish and getting bites, sometimes it honestly matters for kayak position. I would say that's more for your tournament anglers. I mean, I wouldn't, you'll learn it as you go, but like spawn fishing, sometimes spawn fishing, it's all about getting in that little spot in the bed that they don't like. Sometimes you got to drag it across from behind, you go up shallow and cast out deep. I mean, there's so many different ways.
Yeah, that's good tip. All right, so we're gonna get into the funny or crummy segment here and wrap it up in just a bit. But before we do that, just want to give another quick shout out to the premier sponsor, Lead Time. Again, been really impressed with their 100 amp hour Bluetooth smart battery. And I showed Jake when we were out on Raystown, having it connected to my phone. Like that's new to me. I know you've been doing it for a little bit, bro. But that's new to me. So it was dope to be able to see, like, and we ran like 12 miles that day.
Yeah.
In our kayaks, and to get back and be like, man, I have 47% left. If I would have thought I was almost drained all the way, or would have been worried about running out of power, halfway on the way back. So really cool. And that battery,
it's a huge nice just to know, because tournament guys, I mean, sometimes you run, and I've ran, and I've seen, I mean, at Cayuga I killed my 100 amp hour, and I have another one as a backup, and like it's nice to know when you're like, okay, how long have I been? And like all of a sudden you're like today I did a float on the river, and on my way home I was like, oh, I wonder how much battery. I used 11%. I was like, oh, okay, well,
yeah,
didn't use like anything. So
yeah,
it's just
it gives you extra peace of mind, especially if you got to get back to wherever you launched from. And the battery from Lead Time, the smart 100 amp hour Bluetooth battery, is only $310 right now, which is a really, really good price. And again, we have discount code BDF6 for 6% off the entire order. So definitely check them out. Again, the link and the video to that battery is going to be in the show notes below. So let's get into the funny or crummy segment, bro. You're familiar with this.
Oh, yeah.
We go over the dad jokes, and we got a good amount today.
Hey, I'm not a dad, but I do love a good dad joke.
Bro, well, then you're
training.
ready.
I'm training.
You're training, so the next step will be easier.
Yeah.
All right, so first one from Ray Johnson. He said, why do burgers go to the gym? To get better buns. That's good. One. Ray always got good ones, bro. Anthony, he says, I lost my glasses today. Went for a walk. Guess who I ran into? Everybody.
It's a good one. Bro. I like that one.
Uncle Stumpy, what do you call someone who sells prosthetic limbs? An arms dealer. Ooh, that's daddish, bro. I like that.
That's funny.
All right, Ray again. Why do fish love to live in salt water? Because pepper makes them sneeze. Oh, man. All right, last one here.
Ray's got them all.
Yo, Ray's got, and he always be throwing a couple on here too. So shout out to Ray with the dad jokes, bro. We got to be like Ray.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make a shirt like that. Be like Ray. Last one we got from Mason. Said a group of witches rented a boat to go fishing the other day. I don't know how they did, though. I haven't seen them for quite a spell.
What's great is they're never the same. I've never seen a duplicate dad joke. It's awesome.
Yeah, for real. And they don't gotta be good. Like they're still a dad joke, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
So even if it's like an eye roll reaction, it's still like, that's a good dad joke.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So anything else you want to add, Jake, bro? I appreciate you coming out, man, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, if anyone ever has any questions, feel free to reach out to me on my socials, Jake_STEM_fishing. You got me on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all that stuff. Feel free. If you want to see me and Jay's day from Raystown, that's on my YouTube video, on my YouTube channel. But yeah,
so I shot a video just for clarity for that. I shot a video for that trip. I might put it up at some point, but I had a really bad fishing time there. It
was not just your day. It was a terrible day of fishing. The lake was chocolate milk. It was up. I mean,
my electronics were down, like everything, and all my electronics were down. So
you were in the beginning of the video, and I didn't realize you were in the poop tent that Juan brought.
Yeah, it was a really nice poop tent. So that's why I want to put it up so people can see the poop tent. We had a heater in there. We had a cot.
I've camped all my life, and I've never had a poop tent. It was honestly kind of nice.
It was comfortable, bro.
Yeah.
So Juan did it up. I was his first time camping, and he came through with the luxury poop tent.
Yeah.
So shout out to Juan for being ready, bro.
Shout out Juan.
So no, but yeah, so I might put out that video at some point. It's just gonna be kind of like a gimme because I didn't catch no fish.
It's a vlog.
Yeah, it was fun because the camping, we ate some good food, steak, rice, potatoes. It was fire, bro. So, but again, I appreciate you guys watching. Jake, thanks again. Make sure y'all follow him, subscribe to his channel. All his socials are going to be linked in the show notes. So do that before you guys leave tonight, and make sure you join us on June 23rd, because we are coming back with Chad Hoover to talk about kayak safety, which is, again, very important. We got to make sure that we come back to our loved ones when we get off the water. So that's all we got. So appreciate you guys. Peace and God bless.
See ya.